Hello, Matt. Welcome back to the Music Lounge. I've got a few more music fundamentals to talk to you about. First, I want to go over what I was alluding to last time. Okay, last time I drew this diagram here, and I was always putting the sharp notes up high and the natural notes down low, and I asked, did that remind you of anything? Here's what I meant. If I were to draw a little box around each one of these sharp notes, and draw little lines around the natural notes, and then color this black. Does that look like anything? Should look like piano keys. So you'll notice that A sharp is a black key that's a little further ahead. If you were going to play piano and you wanted to play an A sharp, you'd have to move your finger up further than you would for, say, a B, which comes down a little further. Right? Does that look familiar? Not bad. Okay, that's because the white keys on a piano are all the natural letters, the natural note names. A natural, B natural, C natural. Sharps and flats are all black keys, and they're further up than the white keys. Okay? When I think of this pattern of of how often there's two consecutive notes without a sharp or flat in between, whenever I think about that, in my mind, I imagine looking at a piano keyboard. And I say, if I'm in the key of A, then I'm going to skip over A sharp to get to B, but I'm not going to skip over a B sharp. There is no B sharp to get to C. I'm going to visualize this pattern. Sometimes I'll start on a different area of the keyboard, but this repeating pattern of, here is you got two black keys in between the B and the C and the E and the F. And over here, there's actually another black key between the A and the G. Right? So there's A and the B. Typo. But three black keys, two black keys, three black keys, two black keys. All the way down. 88 keys on the keyboard. And that pattern repeats. And sometimes I have to think about where I am in that pattern to think about where the pattern goes. Now, what is this pattern, and why is it there? I think it goes back to a music notation that will look familiar, even though you may not have used it before. Is this symbol right here? It goes down, comes back up, twirls around here and around there. That should look pretty familiar to you. This is called the G clef or the treble clef. Often you'll see it on a staff. The staff will have 5 lines. Also important, it looks a little bit like a G, but it also circles around this particular line, the second line up from the bottom. And that line is actually the G line. That represents the G note. And that's kind of a way that we remember that it's the G clef, because it circles around the G note. Okay? Now you have these notes are going to be all the natural notes. If you look at the natural notes, the one that happens in the space below the bottom line is D. The one that happens on the bottom line is E. The one that happens on the next space is F, then G, then A, B, C, D again, E, F, G. Of course, there are more notes above and below. You can add a line down here and call that C. Add a line here and go below it, and it's B. A, B, C. Okay? That's the treble clef. You'll notice that there's no sharps. There's no flats. This treble clef is meant to kind of skips over all of the accidentals. So if you wanted a, say, F sharp, then the way you would do it is you would put a sharp sign before the note. Okay? The notes are in there, but in order to get there, you have to make sure that it's sharp or flat. In this way, you can get all the notes, and it gets a very compact representation. So one octave goes from this E to this E, and there's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 notes from E to E. 8 notes being an octave. All right. That means that you can sing an entire song. You can notate an entire song, put all the notes to an entire song in a very compact form. If we had all the accidentals in there, then there would be a lot more lines in order to get to the same octave. Instead of 8, there would be 12, and it would be harder to read. And most of those notes are not going to be used anyway. If you are singing a song, you're usually going to skip over some notes. Let me demonstrate. Here's a song that you know because you wrote it. So, not bad. Starts in the key of D. And this is going to be big top. All right, big top. Big top is in the key of D. Now we're going to okay, I'm going to map out some big top here. Starts on a D. Well, I saw her again outside at the big top. I'm going to fill in these notes. Okay, that's big top. Now this is a D, E. This is actually an F sharp. All right. Now, if we had a line and a space between each of these, if every fret was a different section of that staff, then it wouldn't have looked like that. It would have looked like this. We would have bounced between, say, here's a D, here's an E, sorry, D sharp, here's an E, F, F sharp. It would be climbing up like this, and we would lose all the space of having them lines in between. We don't use those, and in that song, we never hit a D sharp. We never hit an F natural. So it really doesn't make any sense to expand the staff in this way. Instead, to read music this way, we have to bounce between. You have to know that this is a D and that this is an E, and that the different distance between the E and the F is only one fret. The distance between the D and the E is 2 frets. You have to know that sort of thing. But it makes it easier to notate. Now, if this were really being published, you'll notice that every time we hit an F, it's sharp. Okay? Since it's always going to be sharp in the whole song, it should default to sharp. What we can do is we can write that it's going to default to sharp this way. Got a staff. Got this little guy. Okay? And right up front, we're going to say what the sharps are. And in D major, we're going to say there's going to be an F sharp and there's going to be a C sharp. And that's it. So anytime you see a C in D major, it's going to default to a sharp. If you see an F in D major, it's going to be an F sharp. If you want to do an F natural, you can. But then you have to, that note is an F sharp. Later on, though, this note is an F natural. Okay? This guy is the default. This is an F. This is also an F. So there's an F here, and there's also an F on this line up here. This way, you're saying that Fs are sharps. And that even applies down in this F. If you have a bunch of lines down here, there's an F down here. If you have a bunch of lines up here, it still applies up there. Anytime you see an F, you're supposed to give it a sharp. Okay? Okay, let's play some Big Top. You know how it goes. The melody goes. That's just 3 notes. That's this one, 2nd fret, 4th fret. You know those notes. You've been learning them. D, E, F sharp. Notice how you skip over some. You don't use the D string 1st fret. You don't use the D string 3rd fret. Those would sound strange in that context. Right? See how that sounds strange? Not all notes go together. Some notes need to be skipped. And the way that the clef, the treble clef, has been organized, the way that the staffs have been organized, they only do about 7 out of the 12 notes in an octave. Right? How many white notes? How many natural notes are there? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. 7 notes are white. How many sharps and flats are there? A sharp. Oh, thanks, camera. Good Lord. Sharps and flats. A sharp, not a B sharp. C sharp, D sharp, not an E sharp. F sharp, G sharp, 5. 7 white, 5 black. That's the 12 notes that we're dealing with. And the staff only does the natural notes. You can augment the notes to notate a different one, but basically, what that thing is doing is it's showing you a scale of what you can use. Okay? Okay, so where are we now? Well, we've done a little bit. We did note names. And note names is part of what I would call music theory. So far, we've done a little bit of very gentle music theory. One of the things that I really liked about the class that my kids were taking was that they did a whole bunch of different aspects of music. Music theory was one of the things that they would do every week. Another thing that they would do, repertoire. That's your standard recital fare, right? Learning songs so that you can learn to play them. Kids would learn songs. At the end of the semester, they would pick one that they would do, pick one or two to do in a repertoire in the recitals. Okay. What else? They would learn techniques. Technique would be on a piano would be say how to do scales, how to do arpeggios, how to do hard notes, soft notes, staccato notes, legato notes, that sort of thing. But techniques were always part of what they were doing, and oftentimes you'd get techniques as part of your repertoire. Also, they would do something that I had not heard of before. Ear training. And turns out ear training is pretty important, and they do test for it when you're trying to get into music school in, say, an AP test or admissions to a college music program. So let's do a little bit of ear training right now. And it'll be easy. Let's take it easy. Okay, for this ear training exercise, I'm just going to do something very light and very easy. I'm going to tell you 3 notes that I can choose from. They're going to be in the key of C. Now C, the note, is going to be the 3rd fret of the A string. That's C. Or D, that's going to be the 5th fret of the A string. Or E. That's going to be the 7th fret of the A string. So you got... All right? Those are the only notes I'm going to play. I'll play a melody, and you try and play it back. All right? But you can't look at my fingers. Can't look at my fretboard. So, 1, 2, 3, go. Your turn. My turn. Your turn. My turn. Your turn. All right, how'd you do? Are you able to play exactly what I play? Play it by ear. That's just 3 notes in a rest. Every time I was doing 3 notes in a rest, and it was only 3 notes that I was choosing from. Okay? That's pretty easy ear training. If that was difficult, please try it again. And if it was easy, that's fine. We just got some practice doing something that as musicians we hardly ever do. Now you can imagine that you do more and more ear training, it gets more and more complicated. You should be able to be given a key that a piece of music is written in. Thanks, reactions. Given a key, you should be able to hear any melody written in that key and know which notes they are. If you can do that, you can play by ear those notes, right? Ear training could also help you recognize what the chords are for a new song that you've never heard before. Hear it on the radio, listen to it, know what the chords are, at least the relative chords. So that's a skill that little kids can put together. They can start building that skill even when they're really young. And as grown-ups, we can work on that skill also. there are apps that can help you ear train. There are ways that you can improve your ear so you can hear things in music, and that makes music more fun. Okay, so that's what I've got for you this week. I hope to impress upon you that when we see the notes that were chosen for this notation, that is the natural notes, they are showing you what is essentially a scale. That is, given an octave, which has 12 notes, there are 7 notes that are going to be commonly used, and 5 notes that are going to be uncommonly used and that are kind of hidden in this notation. I want to also show you where some of this information comes from. I'm using this book as a reference. This is a music theory book for guitarists, specifically for guitarists. I want to show you how far we've come. This is basically what we covered last week. You'll notice that the low notes, the low E, is on the bottom, just like on the staff, where the most bass notes are always depicted on the bottom and the most treble notes are always depicted on the top. Same here. We did the E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A drill last week, and that's up here. But of course, the entire fretboard can be mapped out, and it's mapped out here. This is kind of an eye chart, and it's not something that you want to memorize, but when you get better at playing guitar, you do get to know where the notes are all over the fretboard. You don't just stay in the cowboy chord range, but you do end up coming all over the place. Also wanted to stress, down here you see, here's the treble clef, and here's tablature. And you can see the difference, and sometimes there are some things that a treble clef can tell you that tablature doesn't do a good job of telling you. Tablature does a great job of telling you how to play something on the guitar, but it doesn't tell you which note you're playing. You have to sort of know it. So here on the bottom, the first 4 notes, that's a bass E. That's a very low E. This is F, F sharp, and G, G sharp. Then you get to a place here where the A can be played one of 2 places. So in tablature will tell you which one. If you see this note on a staff, you don't know which string you're going to play it on, because there are 2. There are 2 that could play this note. Now if you get even higher, some notes you can play on 3 strings. Some notes you can play on 4. There's not one that you can play on 6, but you can play some on 5. If you've got a 22nd fret, that's a G. A 22nd fret on the A string is going to be a G. Yeah, makes sense. A G, it's the A string. 24th fret would be 2 octaves high. So if you have a 22nd fret, nice. That's a G. It's the same as the 3rd fret there. All right. So these notes and these scales exist on the guitar, but they are easily depicted. The scale is easily depicted in a treble clef, whereas a tablature will tell you how to play something, but a staff will tell you what notes you are playing. Okay? So each one of these has its purpose. Also, these are really high notes. Couldn't get up high enough up here. It would get confusing. They did this 8VA notation. You see it? Don't worry about it. Just raise that up an octave. Okay? That's how to read music. That's how to read music in a nutshell, right? This is what they're talking about, and this is a good way to share ideas to other musicians, because you take tablature to a pianist and they don't know what you're talking about, but these treble clefs, they know that. Okay? Okay, that's all I got for you this week. For your drill, I've got another drill that's sort of based on what we were working on last week, but goes a little bit further. What I want to do is, instead of just staying on the first 4 frets, let's go and take one string all the way up to the octave at the 12th fret. See if you can do sharp notation on the way up, flat notation on the way down. I'll demonstrate on the E string. E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, E flat, D, D flat, C, B, B flat, A flat, G, G flat, F, E. All right? You can do that on 2 strings every day. So for the first day, you do the 6th and 5th string, maybe. 2 strings on the next day, 2 strings on the next day. And you should still be able to get through that drill quickly. It's just a warm-up drill. You do that in like a minute before you start practicing fun stuff. Okay? Hey, thanks for joining, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.